Mercury in Taurus in the birth chart is a very deliberate placement, first of all. It is a placement that prioritizes concrete thinking over what is just abstract. It is where you're living an embodied experience of something rather than just learning about it and reading about it, but really understanding and leaning into the essential qualities of what it is about. Now, full disclosure, I have this placement in my chart, so this is going to be a very embodied video. The way that I'm going to be communicating about this is very Mercury and Taurus because I have it. I just feel so passionate about my Mercury placement right now. In the way that I communicate, and I am going to embrace the way that I communicate, and I'm not going to allow any judgments to the way that I communicate. And, because I am who I am, and Mercury is one of the personal planets, and so how I communicate is huge, and I have Mercury station in my chart, so that just means that my communication is just amplified. Because I was born when Mercury was at 1 degree of Taurus, standing still. It was going to go retrograde the day that I was born, and I was kind of born right before it turned retrograde. So that day, So anyway, delving into this particular placement of Mercury. Mercury is communication. It's how we think. What are communication styles like? It's also how we process information. What is our learning style? It's also indicated by Mercury. And so what happens when Mercury is in Taurus? Well, you could either be Aries, Taurus, or Gemini, since Mercury is one sign behind the sign that the sun is in, or the sign after. So, or one sign in front of the sun, you could say. I am in Aries with Mercury in Taurus, and I'm going to be kind of discussing kind of my life, maybe as things come up as I go through this. I have some, things I want to talk about, but this may be a very, very long and in-depth video. So just knowledge about that before we proceed into it. So the very first thing is that they don't do all the complex stuff. Their communication is very cut and dry, very simple, very, very black and white. Like they see the world in a kind of a simplistic kind of way, where it's not like you're going to deep into it, although I have a lot of Gemini, so that helps me to, with new ideas and, nuance and things. I become more nuanced with things, but my Mercury in Taurus helps me to have limitations to my speech, where I'm just, I have all these ideas and I'm just going off. It helps me to ground my speech into getting to the point, into really being really thinking very simply about things is what I'm talking about right now. So they have a very, very simple understanding, and this does not have to be bad. It's like this placement is so refreshing for those who get all confused in the mess and the complications and the details here and the minutiae there and all that stuff. When Mercury in Taurus can be, well, I'm choosing to see the world in a simpler way. Now, its speech is very, very controlled. It has a lot of control with its speech. It doesn't just speak impulsively. It doesn't just go off the deep end, although that, that hasn't been the truest for me, although I, have to say that. But generally, though, it is very, very controlled. It does have a fair amount of keeping itself together without losing its head and, going off like, Mercury in Aries can kind of, be all, like, I'm going to fight to the death with my point if that's the last thing I do. Because Mercury in Aries, the sign that comes before, it's like I have this point, and I'm going to tear you to shreds if it means that I am getting my way. So that's the negative. But the positive can be like you're more assertive. And I am an Aries sun, so I use my Mercury in Taurus where I communicate assertively because of my Aries energy, but in a grounded way, in a controlled way, and in a kinder, more Venusian way. It's something about Mercury and Taurus is that they communicate in, like the planet Venus is like very much about, harmony and beauty and love. Like these are all qualities of how these people communicate. Is they communicate in a way, I'm one of them, with love, not, so harsh and aggressive. That's not them. So they're very controlled. Now, something very, very interesting about them is that they consider what they are saying for a long time. They sit with it for a long time. It's a very, very low and slow process of them thinking about what they're going to say before they say it, very, very critically. And they tend to, maybe, one of the qualities is that they kind of, they're very, very knowledgeable at what they know. They can say the same things over and over again, the same word. And this is what I'm trying to break because I have more Gemini energy than Taurus in my chart, and Gemini just wants to vary it and, change up its speech. So I try not to repeat myself because I don't want to. But I will repeat myself if I feel just so passionate about something that I want to express, and that I won't be limited to that. But so, they kind of repeat the same words, again and again to try to emphasize a certain point. That's just them. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. One way is that Mercury in Taurus means what they say and say what they mean. And actually, I would agree. I think that like when I say something, it's with a point. It's with, like I say things on purpose. I say things with intention. It's never, half off. I always mean what I say when I say it. I never just, just saying something halfway and then not really, meaning it, or just kind of, going off on this bridge and not returning home to the shore, So, they mean what they say and they say what they mean can be true, actually, with this. However, this does not mean that they just give away all this information about what they're talking about. Like, they give very, very simple bits of information. Like they say it simply. They get to the point. They say what it is. Here are the bare bones of what I'm talking about. They say what they mean and they mean what they say, but they don't go on and on and on and on and on about it. Because the reason why they do this is because they draw you in by their words. They have a way of, pulling you in and making you look at something in a very, very deep way, in a very profound way. Because Mercury in Taurus just sits with things, studies things, and considers things, and spends time, looking at the trees and looking at, whatever they're looking at, the flowers and all of that, and really studying them and really sitting with it, and, looking at it for a good amount of time to where you can have a good understanding. Like they pull you in to want to learn more. Like they kind of whet your appetite to sort of, like, here's what I'm going to tell you about it, but I want you to experience it. I don't want to just talk about it. I just don't want to just talk and just give you all this information. I want to draw you in and give you what you need to know, and then you can experience it for yourself. That's Mercury in Taurus, where you can really experience it in a sort of embodied kind of way. It's not, again, theory and, abstract. It is embodiment. It also wants to ground all the confusion of what is intellectual because there's so many gray areas with intellectuals, so many black and white stuff, like this, good, bad, one thing means this, another thing means that. Like, they don't do that. They're very, very simple. So they want to take the confusing aspects of communication and they want to simplify it. They want to find a way of grounding all of that energy into something cohesive, into something comprehensive, into something concrete. So, that's what they want to do with that, very, very easily. And, they don't just talk just to talk and share what they know and just, like, I have things to share and I just want to share them. Not just the word for itself, not just the word on its own, just as it is. It's like, in Great Expectations, how, what's her name? Estella said, how in the mind they mean something, but in the heart, I love you means nothing. Well, Taurus is like, no. Where, where Estella in the movie was unaffected by words, because she would understand it intellectually, but not feel it. Like Taurus Mercury wants to feel what it is talking about, like feel all the stuff and what it's doing. So, it looks at, like, what does this word mean? What does this word taste like? How can you touch the word? How can you feel the word? How can you sense the word? Like the essential elements of this word. Like, food. They just don't want to hear it. They want to eat it. They just don't want to hear about food. They want to eat it, and they want to actually experience it and cook it and get in there and cooking in the hands. And Taurus rules cooking because it's like an embodied experience where you're using your hands and your, using your senses to cook. So it's kind of like that. Now, if you're in relationships with them, I would say do not rush their communication. Be patient with their communication because they will take their time. They will take their time. They will communicate in a very, very slow, very, very steady, one step and then another step kind of way. One piece, and then here's another piece, and then here's another piece. One piece at a time. That's how they talk. And they take their time. So don't rush them. Don't rush them. That's what they need to know about that. Yeah, they also, it's kind of like just associating Mercury. It's kind of like I'm disengaging with you, almost. Like I think that Mercury in Taurus does not respond to people that are not worth their energy or their time or their breath to respond to. Like they have discernment when it comes to knowing that this conversation and what this person said to me is not worth my breath, so I'm just not going to respond. Like, I do feel like, and I listen to this to myself, like, sometimes they don't respond, and I think that's why, like, this is my opinion of it, because I live this, and so I know it, that it's just not worth their time and breath. So that's why maybe you're in a relationship with them and they just don't respond to something, probably. So I'm just going to flat out say that. Like they're disengaging with somebody. But anyway, they don't want to give into the pressures of what is going on externally. They don't, like when people are pressuring them to say a certain thing or think a certain way. No. They want to think in their own grounded way, on their terms, with what they know and how they want to collect information that is of them. And so, they don't want to be told what they know. like how to think. They want to do it in their own way, on their own terms, because Taurus is connected to their values. They don't want to do something against their values. Like they do not want to do that. They want to learn about something in a way that is aligned with their values and aligned with their own truth. So, okay. So, and they also want to, align with, they want to lean into the sensational. Like whatever they're talking about, they want to live it. They want to experience it. They want to understand it for themselves in that kind of way. Now, Mercury in Taurus teaches you're not going to find intellectual meaning just by sitting and expecting it to just come to you. Like it's not going to be handed to you on a platter just instantly. You have to sort of sit with it and meditate on it and contemplate on it. And then when you sit with it and you really look into it and take your time understanding it, then you'll find the meaning at that point. So, so that's what they are all about. Where patience is very, very important. Like these people can teach you to be patient, not expect just instant ideas and instant gratification with what is going on intellectually. Being patient for finding intellectual meaning and knowledge and wisdom. This is kind of the lesson that they can teach with this. Meaning doesn't happen instantly. It requires you to wait for the meaning. Real meaning, like I'm thinking of Buddha. He didn't get that spiritual meaning by just sitting in his castle indulging in all the luxuries. He actually, did what he did, shaved his head, put new clothes on, went to the forest, sat under a tree, sat there for a long time, meditated, and then after a while was sitting there, he found the meaning. He found that truth that he was seeking, that enlightenment, that purification, that spiritual raising yourself to a higher vibration, to a higher state of being, because he was patient for it. Because he sat and waited for the meaning to come. Like Mercury in Taurus allows it to come. It doesn't just go out and chase it. It's just like, come to me. I'm allowing this meaning to come to me when it does, like on its own time. Not like when I'm forcing the universe into having this meaning come to me, but just allowing the meaning to come as it will. Because Venus rules Taurus is an allowing energy. It doesn't go out and just chase down everything that it wants to get. It just invites, it receives, So, okay. So things that you experience in the body that you think is just external to you. Well, they don't do the external. They say that it's within you, that you feel it in your body. That's an internal, introspective experience that you feel in your body. It's already within you, and that's what they invite you to look at, is that the truth is we already have our answers inside of us. We already have all the answers already inside of us, where we don't need to look outside and out there and search and go on these quests for meaning and quests for luxury and whatever, that that you can find meaning inside yourself, and you can look within to really, really see, like, oh, here's the meaning. Oh, here's the revelation. This is what I'm coming across. They want to live an embodied life. They want to live a life, and what does it mean? Okay. My Lilith and Gemini always need to look things up. It's basically living a life with tangibility in it. where there's a form to it, basically. So that's what embodied means, in that kind of way. So, one of the philosophies of Mercury and Taurus, things cannot be just described. Things are not meaningful if they're just talked about. Like, they don't want to do all the talking and all the noise. They want to experience it. They want to feel it. Things can only be felt instead of just talked about. They just want to feel it. They just want to lean in to whatever feeling it gives them. That's what they want to do with that. So they tend to collect and hoard things. So, at worst, and this is typical with Taurus South Node, you find Taurus South Nodes very consumed with the material possessions and hoarding these things and not refusing to just let them go and get rid of this space for new energy that can actually make you feel more grounded and peaceful within yourself. Because you don't feel grounded and peaceful with South Node and Taurus. You feel like, oh, I never have enough of these things. So you keep accumulating them over and over and over again. And at worst, Taurus can hoard possessions. Worst, it can, like all these possessions that I want to keep, all these valuable things that, I don't want to get rid of them, and I don't want to lose sight of them because they're so valuable, but with the Southern Taurus, they hold you back from being at peace with yourself. So at best, Taurus can be at peace with itself, and through that Northern and Scorpio, like they're learning to be at peace with themselves by letting things go, which is very difficult for them to do because Taurus is so stubborn and holds on. So they tend to collect and hoard what they find valuable, and they keep it. They keep it to themselves. They keep all that, all that stuff that they get and that they collect from all these experiences, all these pictures, all these gemstones, all these rocks, all this pottery, or these CDs, or whatever the possession is. They keep it to themselves. Like, Taurus is not a sharing energy. It doesn't just go around and share things that it keeps that's find valuable to them. Like, it keeps it to itself. And Northern and Scorpio is not about learning to share, it's about learning to let go of what doesn't serve you. So I want to correct that. Want to correct some interpretations of that placement that I don't agree with. But, I'll talk more about that when I get to Northern and Scorpio. I really, really want to delve into that placement very deeply. And I plan to do a video about that sometime in the future, but I'm not going to rush into it and put the pressure on myself to do it. One thing at a time. So they hold on to it for dear life. They hold on to these possessions for dear life. And it's very, very difficult for them to let them go. That's what they find. Because it's so valuable, because they want to keep them and do all this. There's a need to know things not through theory or getting caught up in the head, but rather through an embodied experience, as I've just described. So, not just understanding, like reading something and just hearing about something and understanding it in that way, like they don't do that. They have to experience it. It has to be practical for them to really let it sink in. It takes, they're kind of slow learners. Like, it takes them a while to understand if it's not an embodied practical thing, but once they learn, they will hold on to it and they will not let it go. Once they learn it, they will remember it. And they kind of keep it locked away in a file somewhere in their mind, like, oh, here it is, and I'm going to pull it out whenever I need it, because I've learned it and I'm not getting rid of it, and it's a valuable possession in my head, because it's something intellectual to me, and it's a valuable possession, and I am keeping it within me, and I'm holding on to it. because this is one of the things that makes up me. This is part of my understanding of life in the way that they understand life. So, they may look very, very deeply at people and situations. Very, very deeply. Because it sits and reflects enough to where it can give pearls of wisdom. So, they don't just assume things out of nowhere. They don't just jump to conclusion and just say something out of impulse to this person and just talk to talk. They sit with the people and situations and they think about what they want to tell them carefully. And then they share what they want to share to people. And it's from a very self-aware, wise place. Because they are actually sitting, contemplating it, thinking about it, meditating on it. Then they share the wisdom. All this practical fountain of wisdom that they have, that they want to share. So it's about really getting to know them. Sitting with them for a while and getting to understand their philosophy, like being patient with them, like giving them a chance, like taking your time with them, leaning into them. When you're connecting with the Mercury and Taurus person, don't expect them to just reveal everything just like that, because they won't. Nooks and crannies, one step at a time. Like, be patient when talking to them, because this is their communication, this is their mind. So we need to honor that. So, it's very, very egoic to just want things just instantly and do all this, but, it's very important to, have that kind of patience with that. So, their voices, and I am an example of this. So their voices are very, very rich. Very rich, very, very deep voices. I mean, if you listen to my singing voice, for example, because I have songs, you'll find that I have a very, very rich, deep voice. I can thank my Mercury and Taurus for that and my good singing ability, and I have several songs available. And sometime I want to make a playlist with all those songs. And I can understand why Spotify just doesn't want any old song to be on there, but I'll make an album and a playlist of those songs on my own channel, and then whenever I, produce a new song, I'll put it in that channel. But also, Barbra Streisand has Mercury and Taurus. And I think that she feels like if I can't touch it and taste it and feel it, then why does it exist? I'm making that assumption because I think it's very, very Mercury and Taurus to say. Barbra Streisand, if you listen to her voice, and I'm subscribed to her channel, I think that you'll find her under my music channels, has a very rich voice. It is right up my alley when it comes to singing voices. If you listen to her voice, that's the kind of singing voice that I am into. Rich, deep voices that really have a lot of expression in them, that are very, very prominent and strong voices. And so that's what their singing voices. So they make excellent singers. They make excellent singers. So, they understand that there are things that are worth just knowing about. Just by knowing about them. Not necessarily saying them. I want to say, this video is long because Mercury and Taurus, I'm taking my time with what I want to say. So, these things are worth knowing, worth understanding, but talking about, that is really when it comes to, what they're all about, is, talking about all that very, very easily. Yeah. So something's worth knowing and not saying. Their words are solid. Their words are very solid. Yeah, so it's very, very in place. So, okay. So there's a structure to them. And their speech is with substance. It has substance to it. It's not just airy and light-filled with it's not like just hot air with no substance. There's ground. Like Taurus is the earth. Like earth has stable material structure to it. And you can actually touch it. It has matter. It has matter. It has weight. So, yeah. So that is what I want to say about that. Okay. So, okay. So, the next thing is, what they do is, they ask you to slow things down. They want to slow everything down. They don't want to rush. They don't want to be all caught up in the busy parts of things. They want to slow things down and notice how things are growing. Notice how one step at a time something is ascending, something is becoming bigger, more evolved. Like that's what they notice. It's material growth. They may be very, very deliberate and practical. This is a quality. They are really, really deliberate in their speech. And they communicate in a practical, real way. And they communicate with steadiness. The communication is very, very steady. Like it's very one tone, not up and down and unstable. No, it's steady. You can count on their communication to be consistent, to be even keeled. They're very, very calm. Taurus is a very, very calm sign. They communicate in a very, very calm, grounded way. And I think that we can learn that from Mercury and Taurus, communicating in a calmer way rather than just being so aggressive and loud. We can learn from Mercury and Taurus to sort of calm down and add more solidity to our communication. So, and they're also very reliable with their communication. You can rely on them with what they're saying, that they're going to say the same thing over again, and they're going to repeat the same points out of reliability and out of loyalty, because they're very, very, because they value that point that they want to make. They value that idea, that they're going to hold on to it. They're going to probably say it over and over again, as they value it so very much. So, there is this desire for things that have a practical value to them. Something with practical value, not just abstract value. Like, it has to have some value. It has to have some real value. So, is it worthy? And does it matter? Does it matter? That's very, very important. Yeah. So, is the idea, valuable? They value, another thing is they value, quality over, quantity. Like they value the quality over things and how good that thing is as a thing instead of how much it is. Like they'd rather have less is more to them. Like they'd rather have a little bit of something that is so good and so authentic and so real and so well done with care and time and precision. Like I think that when it comes to like cooking, like that's not the rushed kind of cooking. It's like you put you put your heart into this food. You put your soul into this food. You took your time making it, and you had a very, very sensual, slow experience making the food. So that's what it can really, really come down to it. So, so they'd rather have a little bit of something that's just so good instead of a lot of just things that are kind of like crap in quality or not very good in terms of its value. Like everything has to have value and be valuable to Mercury and Taurus. They also have practical wisdom to give. They're very, very wise because they've contemplated things, they've meditated over things, and they have a lot of practical advice to give. And their communication is very, very methodical. Very, very systematically put into place. Very like a structure, like one step at a time kind of thing, like that. They want concrete results. Like, earth signs are about results. Like, if you don't have the results, you don't have something that can come out of all that material work that you're doing, then what's the point of doing all that work? So, with earth energy, when we are in earth energy, we want things to come out of what we have done. We want things to pay off from what we have done. We want things to be worth it for us in that case. So, things must be concrete with this placement. They need to take time to process information. Like how they learn is, like they don't just process information instantly. They take time to really, really take the information in and digest it. And, like they're very, they take their time with learning. I don't want to say that they're doomed and they have problems in school. It's just that some people don't understand that these people take time. And I think that we have to understand if you're putting a child in school, we have to understand how they learn, how they communicate, how they learn information so that we can attend to their needs, so that we can cater to their needs, so that we can help them learn in a way that works for them. So we have to understand that when it comes to children learning in school, learning information. So I'm not going to say, oh, they have problems in school, they learn slow, and negative. No. We need to understand, it's just that we don't understand it well enough. And also, we may not appreciate it well enough. Like that's part of Taurus energy. That's the energy of appreciation. That's what Taurus energy is. So, anyway, doesn't like to rush through things. Do not rush a Mercury and Taurus. They will not, I am telling you, I hate it when others rush me. I just can't stand being rushed. I have to take my time through it. And you know what? My North Node is also in Taurus. So I have permission in this life to literally take as much time as I want with what I want to do in my life. So when someone rushes me, I will tell them I have, Taurus energy, or I have the North Node in Taurus, and I will not be rushed. And, it's okay not to rush. It's okay to take your time. Like, they're here to take their time. They're not meant to, go fast like that. Like, we have to understand that. So, they are now. a downside of this placement that I think that needs to be looked at very, very critically is that while Mercury in Taurus, and I'm going to get into, I want to tell you why this downside is the way it is. First of all, the downside is stubbornness and being opinionated in what you believe and your ideas and your understanding of the world and things in general. And here's the reason why. It's kind of like if you put all that hard work into, like, a lot of hard work into building something over time, and you put so much hard work into it, you don't want someone to come in and wreck it. You don't want someone to come in and, ruin that house that you've spent all this time working. Or in this case, you don't want to learn something so, much and, consider it so carefully and think about it so carefully and meditate on it and take your time learning it and really slowly and methodically learn it, to then have somebody come in and try to change that idea. Not change it. Okay. Like, the thing is, if you've spent so much amount of time, a lot of time carefully coming up with that thought, then if you're so sure about it, you're going to be resistant to change it. You're going to be resistant to new information. And I want to say this with compassion. Like, I want to honor the careful thought process that you have, as Mercury and Taurus has. Like, you take your time coming up with all these ideas. And so you don't need to change it. So you learn things when you, repeat them. Yeah, I'm going to get to that point actually later, because I have at that point later. But I just want to jump to it because I have it written down here and it's inclined to. The thing is, why change it? Well, you don't need to change it. Like, yes, you took time to think that out. Yes, keep it. But that doesn't mean that that's the only idea. That doesn't mean it's the only road to go down. It doesn't mean it's the only truth, the only way of looking at things, the only set of knowledge. There are other pathways to go down in life. So it's not like the person's asking you to change it. It's just adding to it. Or just changing your perspective in a way where you're keeping to what you know, but maybe you're seeing it in a different way. But maybe it's just adding to that perspective. So, so there may be some resistance to this. Like, there's a reason why Mercury and Taurus, know what they're saying, but it's just be open to the new ideas in addition to what you have said. Okay, that's what I want to say, and that's what I believe here. But it's always good to be open to changing your ideas and your viewpoints of the world, because we can't just have the same viewpoint, and we change as humans. Our viewpoints change. We go through life and we learn something and we change something, because we learn a new piece of information or we have a new piece of wisdom. Like, it's okay to allow for change. And it's so important to be open to change. And, you're not meant to stay with the same idea and the same philosophy for your whole entire life. And so when they are so stubborn in that idea, then it kind of holds you back in the world. Like, it kind of holds you back from new understandings. So that is something worth knowing about this. So you learn things best when you when you repeat them over and over again. Like, they have to learn things in a way where they're repeating them time and time again to really, really get it through the system to really learn effectively. and through what is concrete rather than abstract. Like they learn through the concrete. They don't do the abstract theory, pie in the sky philosophy up in no. They don't learn like that. It has to have some practical application to it, some concrete application. It can be spirituality. How can spirituality be practical? How can astrology be practical? How can the 5D realm be practical? How can philosophy be practical? So all these things. This is how they understand the world. So it's step by step. It's a one-step process. Learn something here, and then you learn the next thing, and you learn the next thing, one step at a time, and then you get to the final destinations. Taurus is like, and I think that Taurus also represents the journey from where you were to where you're going. Because, to get from your house to the top of a hill, for instance, you can't just snap your fingers and expect to go there. No, you get outside your house, you start walking, you start moving up that hill slowly and surely, and, you start walking up that hill step by step, and while you're doing it, you're smelling the breeze, you are seeing the scenery around you, you're hearing the sounds, so that's the journey. Like Taurus is very journey oriented. It's not because of the embodied experience of that journey with your 5 senses. So it all comes back to that. So that's what it is. So they want to experience things and not read things. It's all about experiencing things. They communicate in a very steady and deliberate kind of way, as I've already described. And they're very, very careful with their speech. Like, if you have this placement, you really, really think about what you say before you say it very, very carefully. You don't just speak out of impulse like Mercury in Aries and Mercury in Sag. You slow it down. And you say things with purpose and intention. That's why I am so defensive against others correcting me, because I have this placement and I think about my ideas very, very carefully before doing that. And you can have your idea, but you don't need to always defend it. You can do it in a gentle, calm way. You don't always need to defend yourself with that idea. You actually be calm about it and open about it. So that's what I'm saying here. Okay. All right. So you have common sense. Very, very common sense knowledge about things, and you want direct and simple explanations to things. You want things to be very, very, straightforward. In communication, like this is how it is. This is a simple way of looking, not the complex, deep, gray areas of all this. Like Mercury and Taurus does not beat around the bush. It's not interested in the side conversations here and the side conversations there. It's like, get to the point. Have a direction. Here, what are we doing? What is the point of this? What is the substance of this? How can I get the material to do this? Like, what do I need to know? Get to the point. Tell me what I need to know. That's Mercury and Taurus. So, that's what they're looking for. And it's very, very often that with Mercury and Taurus, you are very good at keeping promises to others in your life. When you make a promise, you will keep to that promise. You will not just promise lightly and just say you're going to do something and then just not do it. You're going to promise it, most likely. That can depend on other factors in your chart, but generally this placement is very good at promising things, because Taurus is a very fixed sign. Taurus is a very, very loyal sign. And so if you're being loyal, you are most likely saying something than being loyal to, because you need stability in your life and you want to create that stability, and part of that stability involves relationships, and part of having A stable relationship is to make promises and keep to them, to build trust and to build a sense of connection and a kind of, a bond and a companionship to that person. Like, they believe your word is your bond. So, I saw that, in a episode of World's Strictest Parents, the dad was like, your word is your bond, be truthful, be honest, don't lie, because you're something special if you, tell the truth. There's something so special, like it makes you a better person if you're just telling the truth. And if you're honest about something with something, and if you say you're going to do something and then you do it, like that's the point that he was making in that that episode. So, all right. So, making decisions based on past experiences. They base it on all their experience because they live through life. Like everybody lives through life, but they actually, touch it and they taste it and they feel it and they experience it. They get into the sense instead of reading and studying and, theorizing and just thinking and assuming. They actually get their hands dirty and, get in there and get your hands dirty with the clay and the dirt and the whatever. And learn it. And so that through that, they form their past experiences based off of that sensual learning. And also any proven concepts that they have, like any concept that that is proven that they have proved over time through their experience is also something. They want to find practical solutions and clear benefits to problems. Like they want to find what is the solution to this problem? How can this be fixed? Like wants to be practical about it. And you tend to do. Now another thing is, they stick with what they've always done, and I didn't agree with this. I didn't agree with sticking to what you've always done and doing things the same way over and over again, because that keeps you from growing. Like where is the growth if you don't change the way that you do it? If you're not open to new ways of doing it, so you tend to do what is tried and true in the way that things have always been done, the way that you've always done it, rather than by experimenting and innovation. Excuse me, I can't get that word out. It's not that you have to completely throw your world upside down and change your whole way of doing it. Just easily moving into new ways of doing it, like trying new ways of going about the same thing. Like that Taurus South Node is like so stubborn, like I've done it this way, and I'm going to stick to this way of doing it, if that's the last thing I do. Or someone comes in and says, you haven't considered this, but this is another way of going about the same problem that may be easier. And so, when you can be open to those new ways of doing it that may make your life easier and more efficient and more interesting and more colorful for you, then you'll find a lot of benefit with that. So, that's what we have to remember. Now, being flexible in your way of thinking, not being so rigid, not being so, set, being open to new ideas, being open to new ways of thinking, very, very important. You can keep your practical wisdom. You can keep all that wisdom that you've developed. You don't have to change that wisdom. You don't have to change it. You can keep it. But don't stubbornly hold on to that wisdom, as I said before. And so with this comes humility. Like, I don't know everything. I may have this idea and I may be so confident and sure about it, but I don't know. And I'm just curious, like having a curious, open mind, like I wonder about this. Or I'm open to trying this. Not easy because you're, stubborn, but, or so fixed in the mind. But be open to, trying new ways of doing things. Like, keep to the way you're doing things. Not that it's bad or wrong, but you don't want to become limited by only that. You want to expand out of that to also include other things and be curious and humble in the process. Now, this last point that I want to make about Mercury and Taurus. I'm going to say this with as much compassion as I have. You don't have to get stuck in the ruts that you're in. You don't have to get stuck in communicating, slowly, where you don't feel like you're moving out of that. Like maybe there's a part of you deep down in you that just wants to speed up your communication, just wants to talk to you. So, understand that there may be situations where you may need to sort of, be faster in terms of your communication. I say that with all the compassion that I have. But that doesn't mean that you have to just impulsively make decisions. Like Taurus, thinks it thoroughly. Like you can do that. But I don't want to say Taurus is doomed when it comes to that. Like, I want to say, I want to, just say, not getting into ruts about communicating so slow, like you feel like you're not getting anywhere. Like when I'm reading, like I found that when I was reading, it was a very, very slow process. I wasn't getting anywhere. Like, actually, it takes yourself to really be aware and say, well, I'm going to force myself to speak faster. I'm going to force myself to speak in a quicker way because I just want things to flow faster. I just want things, like don't you want yourself to move a little bit faster? Don't you want things to flow? But the thing is, you get stuck in things. You get into a rut of the same ideas, of the same, not being able to communicate everything properly because you're just so stuck in it. So, be aware of it and just keep moving along, keep plodding along, and keep moving forward. Like, don't stay in that hole, but just keep digging and just keep plodding along and moving forward. And you will be in that proper place that you want to be in when you just keep pushing forward. And you'll find that when you do this, your communication will be faster. And as a bonus, that will help you in some situations of your life when you need to communicate faster. Like that will really, really help you out if you just plod along. If you just keep moving, and be aware of, oh, I'm getting stuck and I need to move along. So, okay. So, and then thoroughly thinking it and then moving quickly through it, thoroughly thinking about it, something, and then communicating it after you've done the thorough thing. Like that's what Taurus does. It thinks about something very, very thoroughly, very slow, and then it communicates it effectively, like that. So anyway, that's all I have to say on Mercury and Taurus and the natal birth chart. This has been the Sunday podcast episode. I may be back during this week, but there are no promises, no guarantees. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Athens or Google Podcasts. Consider following this on Spotify. And tune in for the next episode. I want to continue to do the nodes. I'm really feeling inspired to do Virgo North Node. I also want to do talk about my solar return chart and the astrology with that because my birthday is coming up. But I want to do more of the nodal placements because I really, really do enjoy doing those videos quite a bit. They're very, very deep videos, and I want to finish off the series. So I'm thinking of doing Virgo North Node next because I have some things I really want to talk about with that placement. So that's all I have, and I'll see you in the next episode of this podcast.